This episode and every episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show is brought to you by Monger Brewing. Visit Monger at their tap room in Marietta, Georgia, or online at ironmongerbrewing.com.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yeah, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
Welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios in Marietta, Georgia. And this week we're talking with Burnt Hickory Brewery. Doing a little different. We had planned to have Fat Orange Cat on this week, but they got hit by the tropical storm that went through. So they'll have to reschedule. We'll definitely have them on again in the future. But Scott Hedeen, Burnt Hickory Brewery, was nice enough to join us. Scott, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. You called me up, said, you want me to come down? I'm like, of course.
I'm
love
down.
You guys. I love you guys.
I'd
be here.
Well, we appreciate you.
Yeah, I've actually been sleeping in the car outside since my
Just
last
waiting,
appearance.
all
Just
right.
waiting for you to make that call. So
I saw you out there, actually.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
Well, we
I was out
appreciate
there.
that. That's
I saw
good
you
stuff.
seeing me.
Yeah. Well, I am Tim Dennis, and always my good friend and co-host, Brian Hewitt.
So you pretty much stole my thunder. Scott Hedeen, the brewmaster for Burnt Hickory Brewery, is here. We're going to talk about, honestly, whatever the heck Scott wants to talk about.
This is a free-form show.
You can't control Scott. He will go where he wants to go.
You cannot. And this is a special tasty morsel just for our podcast
Yes.
listeners this week. So we're just gonna freelance it. We're
Oh,
just
sure.
gonna
I
see
mean,
what goes
whatever.
on there.
Let's just
Absolutely.
throw
We're
it
going to
out there.
outsource it. Oh, wait, no, that's
can.
the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's it. Right. Maybe we should have though, right?
Possibly.
Sure enough.
Absolutely. But we're gonna talk. Yeah, we're gonna freeform it. We'll probably talk some about seltzers.
There's nothing.
We'll talk milkshakes.
There are so many topics right now about craft
candy
beer.
bar beers, milkshake beers, cereal
you
beers.
name it. It's a wonderful time.
What's happening with the industry? Mustard beers. We'll actually talk about that a little bit as we get going on here. But
I did see that.
it'll be a good time. Yeah. Scott, how's your week going? Has anything interesting happened for you this week or recently, I should say?
The brewery's been open now for like 8.5, going on 9 years. So it's kind of pretty much been the same thing. So, I mean, it's always a new, every day there's a challenge.
Sure.
I mean, you start to get things laid out. You start to get everything the rails laid for the train, and then along comes something that's going to throw you off. In Georgia, it was like, when's the law going to change? When's the law going to change? And then the law kind of changes. Then remember, it changed back.
It changed. It
Remember
did.
that?
That's right.
Yeah, that was
right.
a classic. Yeah. And then it finally changed. And then we're chewing along, and everything's going great. And then there's this COVID comes out of nowhere, and it's it's a weird time. I mean, for any type of business,
It's crazy. It is. There's no one that hasn't been impacted tremendously by COVID. No one's escaped.
It's one of those times that you're going to be like, well, back in my day we had COVID,
Yeah.
but
And we're fortunate here in Georgia. There are tap rooms that have been able to open. We had temporarily just to go only, and then limited in the tap room serving. But like you were talking about before we came on the air here, in Florida they've shut them down. If they don't serve food, they can't serve anything.
It's kind of like this whole model started where this no distribution, it kind of like we dreamed one day we'd have, where we just open a tap room and sell out the back door or the front door or the roof or wherever.
Whatever to come in.
And now
wherever you
all of a
want
sudden you get that, then all of a sudden here comes this, out of nowhere, virus came, and then all of a sudden you don't have that. So what do you do? So we kind of, Burnt Hickory, I make the joke, we've been going out of business for 8.5 years. So I know
you should start selling rugs as well.
Do it like that
is
store.
part of that business.
Yeah.
model.
Burnt Hickory Brewery, we've been social distancing since 2012.
Right.
And
Whether we liked it or not.
Yeah, it's like, but I tell people, like, I know what kind of wood burns best in an oil drum, and I know where the good eating on the squirrel is.
That's
so I've been
right.
living, I've been a brewer for 8.5 years, so I know what it's like to be poor.
Find the right trash can, you make one heck of a salad, right?
You got to love it. In fact, that sounds like a good beer name.
That's one heck of a salad.
That's what you call spontaneous
Dumpster
fermentation
salad.
out there.
That's what
Yeah,
I would name it
absolutely.
and not give you credit.
That's you know what? That happens, man.
Don't go
That
there.
happens.
And
That
so
happens.
it made it so a lot of these people thought it was going to be kind of a wide open thing. We're going to make beer and people are going to drink beer, and it's everybody kind of a fool's paradise where you're going to just go for it. And all of a sudden you kind of get a reminder that nothing is set in stone. You just kind of be, ready. At Burnt Hickory, we kind of had a system set up where we knew how to like sell beer in different ways based on the way the laws were, 8 years ago.
Right.
So we're doing like curbside. We're doing special variant releases where they're like the cans. And you're kind of laughing about kind of my can labels are kind of dull.
Do what you got to do, man.
But this is kind of.
I like the names.
Well, the thing about that, the labels are just kind of generic because they're supposed to be kind of like mini. These are like these 12-ounce cans are like mini crowlers to go. And my trapper was like, "Well, where are we going to get labels?" I said, "Is the Staples open? I'll be right back."
Where's the Sharpie?
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's kind of, it goes back to that, it's not about the can, the wrapper, it's what's inside. So, but people were finding they couldn't come into our tap room and get all our different variants that we have made. So I said, okay, why don't we just can them and get them out there? And they're like, well, no one's going to want a whole crowler. So why don't we just fill some of these brights that we had? And actually, we first started because I'm the guy who bought like a pallet of bottles about 2 weeks before I bought a canner.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. So we started filling these old bottles that I had.
I was at Burnt Hickory Brewery the first time you bottled beer for sale. The first time at a little 3-head filler.
Yeah,
they're bottling
back in the. I mean that. And again,
I
those
worked
lessons
on that as well.
Yeah, I had everybody. I was like Tom Sawyer with whitewashing the fence. Like, come on down, let's have a good time.
This sure is fun.
This sure is fun. Get out there, and you're like, I'm working in a brewery. Well, grab a mop.
Wait, how'd I get to work here, man?
Like,
I thought
why am I cleaning toilets? I thought I was brewing beer.
Yeah, why am I painting this?
That's
fence?
called R&D, Brian.
Yeah.
So, in some breweries, that's R&D. But so we kind of adapted that. I've kind of said this recently a lot. It's like we still got to get the beer out there and get it to people, but we just have to do it a different way.
Sure.
The one thing I can say about alcohol and the business that I'm in and the business that you guys are reporting on, that's never going to go away. You can't download a beer yet, right? There's got to be some way. I think
you can. Can't you with some of those beer machines? You can download the recipe.
I think
or
you get the
process.
recipe. You still have to get the ingredients. They haven't come up with a way of 3D printing malt yet.
Right.
When they do,
we'll get it.
Man,
it's going to be. No, I thought about that. You would buy a refrigerator sent to you, and every day you'd have to download the code would keep changing to open it.
Like Star Trek, where you just go in and tell it what you want. Tell it what beer
just
you
like
want.
Star Trek.
Pliny
for president.
Pliny chilled.
Pliny chilled.
I wonder how Pliny, if Pliny was president, how would he handle things? But anyway, back to our original. I love how I'm trying to keep things on the topic.
You're not, because the question was, how was your week?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, by the time I get done with it, it'll be next week.
That's it, yes.
But what we're seeing is alcohol is something that, again, liquor stores were considered essential.
They were.
So, so people are still going to get, going to the dentist or taking your dog to the vet or getting a haircut may not be essential, but going to the liquor store is. So since I make alcohol, people will.
I'm essential.
So you're still going to see. You always say that's
good.
It's nice that you've finally been validated.
Alcohol and video games will sell.
Good stuff, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the week's been okay. We've been canning, making beer.
That was the longest anyone's ever taken to answer how was your week.
I love how you guys set me up.
That was the
like
entire segment. No.
So that's
Yeah.
it. And
Okay.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Brian, how was your week?
It wasn't as exciting as Scott's week. I can probably go over it a little quicker. But, so I got into my Drink Your Cellar, #Drink Your Cellar pick for this week was Bocker's 21st Anniversary Ale, which was a bourbon barrel-aged beer with no lactose or coffee, surprisingly.
What?
I just realized how weird it was when I drank that. Bourbon barrel-aged cocoa nibs and vanilla. And held up really well from 2016, I believe. So it reminded me how much Weire beer I have hoarded all over the place that I don't see them out as much as I used to, but I drank a ton of those.
Weire is another brewery that when I drink their beer, I'm like, I should drink more of their beer.
Oh, absolutely.
Another one for me is Avery. That's one that I'm like, man, I really should drink more. Every time I drink an Avery beer, I'm like, I should drink more.
It's so funny because I used to have so much Weire and Avery beers. I just don't, and that's the kind of the trend that's going on in the industry. Not to get back to more about money and all those type of subjects.
Back to the industry talk. Yeah,
but
we got it.
The whole thing is, people, why is anybody Weire? New Jersey, right? I think so.
I think they're Pennsylvania. I'm not sure.
Maybe like Easton, Pennsylvania.
I think that's
I
think it's Easton, Pennsylvania.
Why would I want to drink a beer from Pennsylvania while I'm in Georgia? Because whatever beer is made in another part of the state, we have a brewery here that makes it just as well, or if not better. Because it used to be different when we only had X number of breweries, but now we've got every type of style you'd want to have. And
I would agree that now I still think there's beers that come from out of Georgia that may be better of a certain style, but I think if you were landlocked in Georgia, if we were like Texas and we broke off as our own country and you couldn't get anything but Georgia beer, you're not going to be disappointed.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're going to have everything from the crispy Pilsners to the IPA stouts, everything.
I still and I go back to that thing. It's kind of like the punk rock thing is where, now there's like when there used to be like 10 great bands, now there's like 200 great bands, and you can craft beers now at the mall.
There's still a lot of crappy bands out there too.
Wow,
Yes.
I mean that's like anything, but like Sam Calagione from Dogfish Head was like, I started a brewery, now you go do one.
Yeah.
Well, 8,000 of us did it.
Yep, they listened.
And we're
Sure.
now we have to try to sell, and he's has a beer from Delaware, and he's trying to sell it. He's trying to sell
harder.
60-minute IPA in California. And no matter how much he tries, that beer is not going to be as fresh as the beer made up the street.
And we've seen it like with Stone and Green
Green
Flash
Flash
and all
and
of those. It's these guys. The last 5 years has just been a massive shift in the dynamic of the craft beer industry.
Well, it's been like anything. It's like you're going toward the hyper local, and it's kind of funny because back before Prohibition, there were, X number of breweries, and everybody you drank at your local brewery. Like even like in
Sure.
the 80s, my local beers were like, Stoney's or Natty Bogues. I grew up in, or Rolling Rock or Yingling. And you go to other parts of the country and you'd find like Point, or you'd find like Jack's or Pearl.
Kind of like Germany. When you go to Germany, they still say, hey, I'm going to Germany. I'm going to be here, here, and here.
Yeah.
What should I drink? They're like, drink whatever's in the local pub.
And we've got that here now.
Yeah.
But there's just so much. There was always that talk about, after, the Prohibition, and then there was, the kind of homogenizing of the beer industry where Bud and all that, started taking away the small town breweries, and we went down to maybe 30 or 40 breweries in the country in the 70s.
Yeah.
And everybody, the Craft Beer Brewers Association was talking about, someday we'll get back to the pre-Prohibition level of breweries that we had of 1800. And that was like in 2012. And they said, the way things are going, we may by 2018, we may have like almost 3,000 breweries in the country.
Crazy.
Now it's like 8,000. So there's, it's if you're a craft beer drinker, it's a great time.
It's a good time to be a beer drinker.
To
for
be a
sure.
beer drinker, to be
Absolutely.
a brewery owner. It's
A little different,
it's
right?
like it's a business. I mean, as much as you want to go living the dream, I opened a brewery, man. That's so cool. And I go, okay, well, it is a business.
Yeah. Got to keep that in mind, man. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, Tim, I think we should get into the beers of the week.
Crack open a cold one. It's the Truck and Tap Beer of the Week. Craft beer and food trucks in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com.
Well, Brian, as always, we've got a great list of beers to get into here. Of course, we got some good stuff from Burnt Hickory Brewery. We've sipped some White Flag here, which is an apricot saison. Very good. I'm currently enjoying Revival.
That's
our
Pilsner.
The Pilsner. Yes. Very good. We've got Sacred Love, a little named after a Bad Brains song.
That's right.
For those that know
love
that.
the Bad Brains, and I know you love punk rock. Because
I do.
I know about the story about MDC. At
yes,
the airport
absolutely.
in Albany. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
One of the first stories you told me about
we've also going to get into Tilquin Goozerable,
I guess, yeah.
something along there, a maple goose, and one that we got hooked up with from our friends from Schoolhouse, a Brunch AF coffee bourbon maple stout. We got a little preview of that one. That's actually releasing Sunday, tomorrow. So check that out. We're going to check that out, and if you're in the area, go over there and check it out as well, for sure.
For sure.
Well, Brian, what's happening this week in the news?
What's in the news? The beer guys have the scoop.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines.
So as we've been talking, the pandemic has been rough on craft beer this year, and now we know about how rough it's been. According to the Brewers Association, craft beer is down about 10% in the first half of 2020. This is based on the association's mid-year production survey. Though these numbers come with a bit of a caveat, the Brewers Association's chief economist Bart Watson says that there is a bigger margin of error in the numbers this year because of a variety of factors: higher variation in brewery performance, greater challenges aggregating the data, some people just aren't reporting it, and some missing tax data because taxes were deferred. So in truth, it's possible the numbers could be actually a little higher or a little lower, but he says 10% is his best estimate based on the available data.
I did see that he said depending on where you looked exactly, it could vary a little bit, so...
And what is clearly the most important news of the week, beyond that, and possibly of the year, we've learned that Oscar Blues has released a limited edition mustard beer, a quote, tropical wheat ale that was infused with 150 pounds of French's mustard for release on National Mustard Day, which was August 1st. I know people complain about how wacky craft beer has become, but that didn't stop some online sellers from completely selling out of their supply in just minutes, according to Beer Street Journal. A shame about the timing of this release, though. A few months earlier, and they could have gotten together with the place that brewed the hot dog beer,
right? Yes.
Yeah.
And I know there's been pretzel beers out there too, so
Indeed.
we really could get some nice cuvées going here.
And you probably could find something that resembles a sauerkraut beer from a lot of places. So
yeah, we could
get it
that
all
together. Sure enough.
All right, so one for us here locally. Georgia has taken another step closer to joining the modern world. Governor Kemp has signed a bill allowing delivery of beer, wine, and spirits to residents' homes, but unfortunately these deliveries can only be made by stores and restaurants. And some restaurants, so it's not even all of them. Breweries and brew pubs are still out of luck, as there are delivery services that are gaining steam around the country. They are also out of luck. The new regulations will need to be drawn up so that it may be a few months before we can even take advantage of this. So the important thing here, Tim, and I know you're
Go
worried.
ahead. Let me know.
No distributors were harmed by the passage of this bill. I could see you starting to sweat.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Scott, have you looked into that bill much? The details of the bill?
I saw that. I mean, it's
okay.
I think first of all, when I was a kid, it'd be great.
Sure.
When
I lived in New York,
send some beer over.
This has been long enough ago that I don't
my
think
dad
I'm gonna
can't come to the door, but
I don't think I'm going to get anyone into trouble. But that was a thing when I was in my early teens and we lived in New York. I had a friend whose sister was a few years older than us. She was like 18 or 19, and the courier services there they'd pick up beer at the store for you and bring it. So, and a lot of times they wouldn't card. So we frequently got. I don't think they would have sold to us. We were like 14, 15, but his sister had no issue with
I think
it.
I think that type of underage that worried about it's so. Again, it goes. There's so much else going on in the world now. It's sort of like if some store can generate some revenue by selling beer and stay in the black and stay open, you kind of got to do what you kind of got to do. I mean, for breweries, I can kind of see that be the beginning of maybe a couple of the bricks falling from the wall more where what's going to stop a restaurant from ordering a beer to be delivered from me to them. That's where we have to get to the point. I would like to think that after this COVID thing happened, that it kind of became more obvious that we need to be able to get beer directly to our customers, like when they need it, how they need it. I think the problem that distributors are having is seeing they don't know whether their regular customers, the restaurants are open or not open, or what they're going to buy. Are they going to plan for the whole month? And it's kind of hard to make a business plan if you don't know whether your bar is going to be open or not.
Right.
So we found some places where they call us up going, we can't get your beer. Well, and we were like, oh, okay, because there's only X number of kegs that are available, and then my distributor forecasted that there only going to be so much demand for it. Then some bars, whatever restaurants opened up, took it all. And they're like, whoa, because they don't want to overcommit, because that's the problem. We are dealing with a perishable product where if we send it in, it may sit for like 3 months because all of a sudden the bars aren't ordering. Then all of a sudden the bars open in spurts, they take it all, then it's gone.
Yeah.
So I
got to watch it. But you know what? I want to talk about Scott's the politics of this. And this is something interesting, worth noting here. And this isn't anything that is, unique to Georgia. This kind of stuff goes on around the country. So
politics?
The politics and, with beer and distributors and that. So breweries and brew pubs were specifically excluded from being able to deliver to this. By Georgia state law, brew pubs are classified as a retailer. So if other retailers can deliver, brew pubs should be able to as well. But they can't. They were specifically excluded. With the people that are allowed to do the delivery, any beer that is delivered is going to go through a distributor/wholesaler. So if a restaurant delivers, a bottle shop delivers, it's going to go through that wholesaler.
Yeah.
If a brewery or brew pub was able to deliver directly, they would not go through a wholesaler.
I think there's a tax issue.
So, you could collect the tax. That's not an issue because you guys pay tax now. So it's something if they did
excise tax, yes, on our sales out of the tap.
So if there was something you sell direct to the consumer, this and that, I'll put it this way: taxes wouldn't be an issue. They would figure that part out.
Oh yeah, they definitely would figure that out. I think.
But something interesting to note with this is the bill sponsor. One of the bill sponsors, Brett Harrell. Brett has received a substantial amount from the wholesale lobby, as well as the Georgia Restaurant Association.
I am shocked, Tim.
Right.
Shocked.
Shock and awe.
Cannot believe
Yes.
that would be the case.
Right. So it's something worth noting that it's something that you have to take a look at. If you see a politician that has substantial donations from these groups, and then he writes a law that specifically excludes businesses that would not benefit these groups that have donated to him, you've got to question that. You've got to look at that.
You know, again, I've been in the business here in Georgia for a while. The fact that I can actually have a tap room now, our tap room at Burnt Hickory was a storage area that we had to convert into a tap room because we were told when we opened you could never have a tap room. Now, to see that, I could see them trying to get that bill through just to help out restaurants during this COVID thing, but they threw the brewery thing there probably so it didn't open another can of worms and it would start a whole ball rolling like it was one of those things.
I think this bill was in process before COVID even hit. So that's something that, and another thing.
But I think it would lead, if that works, then that would pave the road. I still think that there has to be.
Yeah. And it also, another good thing it does.
COVID's a game changer no matter what.
Sure. Another good thing it does, breweries and brew pubs can give samples of their beers to their liquor stores, to their bottle shops. And liquor stores can now do tastings. So you can go in there and you can do a tasting. So that's another thing we got out of the bill as well.
It's interesting that you mentioned liquor stores because you know who was very much large package stores because they are not set up for delivery, and now this exposes them to competition that they have to gear up and face.
They were added back in at the very last minute to this bill because they had requested to be opted out, and they were added back in at the
liquor
last
stores
minute.
can do tastings now.
Yes.
When is that in effect?
So the way the bill says is on or before 01/01/21.
Oh, okay.
So that's it. So, y'all, we're going to take a quick break here. Again, doing things a little differently this week, but we do want to take a break and share our sponsor messages. They keep the show on along with our Patreon supporters. So please do give them a listen, support their products, or consider supporting us on Patreon. We would really appreciate it. And we'll be right back with more from Scott Hedeen at Burnt Hickory Brewery. It's time to take your snack back with bold flavors that complement your latest brew. Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds will do just that with flavors like Korean Kimchi Barbecue, Honey Chipotle, Cilantro Lime, and more. Munch on these beer-friendly bacon bites right out of the bag, or crush them in your favorite recipes as a substitute for breading. Find your next bag at Kroger or go to southernrecipesmallbatch.com for recipes and a buy two, get one coupon. That's southernrecipesmallbatch.com.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
Have you ever thought about owning your own brewery but don't know what it takes to get one built? We're Storytime Construction, and we build breweries. We're Georgia's most experienced and hands-on contractors when it comes to building new breweries and tap rooms, or expanding existing breweries. We offer full build-outs, remodeling, and additions, as well as consulting and construction management. Give us a call at 770-733-4343. Storytime Construction. We build breweries.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I didn't enjoy it at all.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Remember, all of these episodes are available on demand. So if you missed the broadcast, get the podcast. Beer Guys Radio is available on all the popular podcasting apps and the unpopular ones and the ones in the middle of the range, all of them, across the board.
Across the board.
Let's
everywhere.
get back to Scott Hedeen and Burnt Hickory Brewery.
Scott Hedeen.
Hello.
Good, sir.
Good, sir.
We always enjoy talking with you. Scott, we have known each other,
Way
7,
too
8 years?
Hundreds
or
of years.
so
Hundreds
now.
of years. Remember we used to run that the surfs and the feudal systems
the feudal
back then?
system back then,
1500s.
We let them eat cake.
We did.
That was nice of us. But, when I discovered Burnt Hickory Brewery, I think your brewery was like 3 months old at the time. And this was back in the days when Georgia Beer, you could only do tours and tastings in tap rooms. Yeah. And you were only doing them once a month at the time.
Oh, yeah. I only had enough beer that would clean us out.
Right. And I went, the first couple tastings I went to, there was maybe 30 or 40 people there. And then it got to where there was 100, then 200, then 2,000.
Yeah. It was like the only thing going. It was like the only thing going. And it's so funny. A lot of people would see that going, wow, that must be a gold mine. And I'm going, if there's 200 people here, I only made
$12 or
$10 a head. You know, the deal was I
head.
sold you like a 65-cent glass for $10, and I could give you 6-ounce pours.
Yep, exactly.
So it's like you went to the Mercedes factory and it was a $60,000 tour, and at the end you got a free car,
a keychain.
But that's all you could get. It capped that. I couldn't,
right.
So I mean, I did that too much too soon type thing where like Burnt Hickory, we came rolling out real hard, and it was kind of like, I know the law is going to change.
Just got to hold on, man.
There's no way Georgia will be the last state. And,
and we work.
The little the little needle going across the record sound, it is. So, I mean, but it is, we're still not as far. I mean, you think about how, even though there seems like there's a lot of breweries here, there's a lot of breweries in North Carolina. There's a lot of breweries in Tennessee.
We've still got plenty of room. That's people here will say, well, we're getting saturated. No, we're not. We're
still not even close to saturation.
We keep on our website, we keep a map of Georgia breweries. There's still very large pockets where there's nothing.
I still think there needs concentration. I think that it needs to be the education of the beer drinker. Like we need to make sure people. There's more. We got to get the number of craft beer drinkers up. There's still a lot of people who drink Bud and Miller here. Not to I like those beers. Not to slam on Bud or Miller, but get more people seeking out local beer.
And the communities where typically would be what you would think would be the Bud Miller, the BMC drinkers, Bud Miller Coors drinkers. When they get a local brewery, they support the heck out of them, man. We've seen that Oconee Brewing. There's not a lot there. I think it's Greensboro.
Yeah,
Greensboro.
So they got huge support. Georgia Beer Company down in Valdosta. These folks are diehard fans. That's one big thing about when you're the first craft brewery in a smaller town. People are passionately support you. So you have that fan base that they're not. We're flaky. Us city folks are flaky, Scott.
Yeah, I know.
Options, we're gonna go.
I mean, I have that. I have that saying I say all the time. Like it used to be, if a brewery opened up within 30 miles of you, you were like stoked. Now, if it's more than 3 blocks, you're like meh.
Right. We've seen that. We did. We were doing shows in Portland. We were on a station in Seattle and doing some different shows out there. And got a brewery in Tacoma. And we considered at the time a quote-unquote local brewery. It's not that far, Seattle, Tacoma area. But we were quickly told, they're like, that's not local. Local's 2 blocks down the road.
It's true.
And they had a couple of options that were basically 2 blocks down the road. So
yeah, I mean, it really is kind of like that. Do we say, is Creature Comforts a local brewery here in Northwest Cobb? Are they? I mean, Athens is, an hour and a half, 2 hours away.
Yep.
Is Terrapin a local, or is Sweetwater considered? Well, that's because they're so
breweries
big.
in Birmingham could be considered just as local as Creature for some people.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
actually a shorter drive.
Yeah,
I think,
or
depending on where you are,
or like in Chattanooga. So it's I know I kind of see we're carving up little fiefdoms like Northwest Cobb or the ITP, OTP, or then are you going to be? I think the south side of Atlanta probably needs more. I guess some breweries do pretty well down there. Even going west, going into like Douglas County, I guess breweries out there are doing well. I mean, there's a brewery in Carrollton that makes amazing beer, so it's kind of
Printer's
like...
Ale. Yeah, they do quite well out there.
I thought that's LaGrange is where Wild Leap is.
Wild Leap is in LaGrange, correct.
I was talking about Wild Leap, but no, I do like Printer's Ale, too.
Printer's is good stuff, too.
Yeah, it's quality. So I think that the thing with the BMC drinkers, and I don't think it's education these folks need. They just need access. They need convenience because they're not dedicated like some of us are to go looking for this stuff. If it shows up locally, they're all for it. They'll get behind it, but it has to be there. If it's not convenient, they're just going to drink Bud Miller.
They're not going to go to the store and buy the craft beer. But if you've got a local brewery where you can go in and you get a pint poured and sit down, that's going to be what turns them on.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, when I opened my brewery, it was the whole idea was I'm going to make beer, I'm going to keg it, and I'm going to bottle it. Oh my God, bottle it and sell it to my distributor, and I'd be so stoked to see it on tap at a bar or on the shelf. Now I have to actually run a bar. And I have to run a store, too, because I got to be able – I can't just turn my back on, that money that's going to come in from people who want to buy. So we're doing like promotions, and we're doing trivia nights tonight at the brewery. We're having that type of thing where you
got to compete with it.
You have to have trivia night
Sure.
at a brewery just to get people to come to your brewery. And it used to be like I would think I'm opening a brewery, I should be like a magnet for cool people. Did I actually just say that?
Magnet for cool people. I think you're a magnet for cool people, Scott. You're
No,
here with us right now.
That's true. It's
well,
true.
I mean, we might be magnets for people like Scott, so it's a
Gosh,
possibility.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
I know.
I love you
I'm
guys.
sorry. It's a
true.
downer.
It's true. I do love you guys.
So, Scott, we want to get your opinion on some trends and,
Okay.
and all that stuff that's going on in the beer industry. Like we talked, man, there's been a lot of changes over the years. 9 years ago, that's ancient history for a brewery.
It's totally different. Well, you see things like, okay, so throw a subject out and I'll give you my opinion on it.
You know what? Let's talk about milkshake IPAs. The move from bitterness to fruit. The switch from a West Coast to a Northeast, and the move from there into the milkshakes. What do you think of the new trend of IPAs?
I have, I had our Killboy Powerhead was an orange creamsicle beer that we did like 4 or 5 years ago because I thought that would be kind of a cool thing to do.
Bring it back. It's great.
We have it. You just need to come visit us.
Oh, all right.
We have one called Lexicon
Brian.
Devils, which is a strawberry version.
Or you could bring it here.
Okay, well, I got my brother the cow, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But listen, it is what you got to take from it what you got to take from it. I don't want to be that person who says, like the guy that told the Beatles, there's no way that rock and roll bands are ever going to make, blah, blah, blah. You never, or kids today, we used to make fun of our parents saying that you guys don't understand what real music is. You have to brew what the demand is. If nobody bought a milkshake IPA, then it would stop. Okay, so people are obviously buying them and enjoying it. I think there's a novelty to it. You can enjoy, if you say you're a film aficionado, aficionado, whatever. Aficionado, you can say Citizen Kane is a great film, or Le Samurai, or, whatever. I watched the Swedish version of Insomnia. But you still every once in a while want to go watch Weekend at Bernie's.
Or Airplane or something like that.
Well, or even a goofy movie where you've got different things. You've got to know the rules to break the rules type of thing. So to have an experiment within the type of framework that you have, what I'm trying to get at is you'll be able to expand your mind and see different places, and different beer can take you to different directions. And I believe as long as at the core, good IPA. You shouldn't make a milkshake IPA just to cover up a bad flavor. You see what I'm saying? Where you can kind of get away with a lot more by flavoring it. It's kind of like if you play guitar, you put distortion to cover up all your mistakes. If you add more stuff to your IPA, it's not going to be, Plus, you got to kind of do something to put yourself on the radar now. How many IPAs are out there? Some people may remember a certain IPA because they really like it. But if you add it's a strawberry milkshake, hazy IPA made with, Stardust or something, right? It's going to stand out and people are going to notice it. Plus, we live in a society that pretty much has become give me convenience or give me death, where it's got to go on Facebook.
Isn't that Dead Kennedys?
It is Dead Kennedys.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. Yeah.
And I can't bring up the NDC and the Albany airport story. But
Syracuse.
But what you see is people are not going to be sitting down and going, there's so much variety now. When you used to buy a tape, like a cassette tape or even an 8-track tape or even an album, you'd play it all the way through. Now you can skip.
Was your first record player the toilet paper tube type where you?
No, it was that little Fisher
I remember that with the plastic
with
records.
the plastic record.
Yeah.
Was that the one with the lid that opens up?
Yeah.
Yes.
You get
To basically get to it, that we have consumers that are very short-minded and they want to be able to try different things and move on. It's like Spotify. It used to be to get records, you had to go to record stores and buy them. Now you just go on your phone and you can find your whole record collection. And
right.
It's easy. So you've got things where people want stuff conveniently and quickly and as much as they can get. So people are getting tired with stuff. Like to find somebody say, I want to, I only drink this one beer. That's it. Well, now you're delving into craft beer. You're seeing this, and then you get bored, and then you're going to go to the next level.
So, question to kind of.
So I think, to answer your question, I think milkshake IPAs are pretty cool. Is it something I want to drink forever? No. Is it something that I want to be known for? Burnt Hickory made the best milkshake IPA ever. I'm like, no, but
You're more about candy bars than milkshakes, right?
Well, I was,
yes.
Well, I mean,
back before it was cool too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of you kind of sat there and looked at what can I do right now to make this different, or what can I do to go to the opposite? I kind of believe in the Seinfeld George do the exact opposite.
Do the opposite, sure.
Do the opposite. I would say, how am I going to I want to make a Banana Foster's coffee IPA, or I want to make I was really intrigued by remember the white stout.
Yes, sure enough.
Yes.
Remember those? Yeah. So I mean, and I've always been the kind of guy that was kind of like intrigued by the newest and latest. Like when the I don't know when.
Did you make a Brute IPA when they were popular?
Not on purpose.
Not on purpose.
No, accidentally. We accidentally dried this one out. So I have a specific question talking about.
Okay, we'll move on. But milkshake
the trends. No, it's really it's related to this. So we're talking about people want the new, the exciting, the changing. The cereal, the milkshake, this and that. But on the flip side of that spectrum, there's also a growing appreciation and desire for Pilsners, the Crispy Boys. Brian.
Crispy Boys.
And so you get people who looked at just today on a local beer forum. Someone's like, hey, I just moved back here from Chicago. Who's making the good Pilsners? And that's something you wouldn't have heard out of a craft beer drinker 5 years ago.
Absolutely not.
It's all cyclical. You remember how it kind of went. IPAs were, back in the day, it's like, oh my God, you got to have Pliny. I mean, you got to have it fresh.
Sure.
And then it's an IPA. Then all of a sudden, a lot of the craft beer people started going toward the bourbon barrel aged stouts. You got to get your Dark Lords, and you got to get your beers that are like way up there. You were kind of in the same crowd, let's say, generation of beer. Then we started going after sours. Then, like we're talking about, Canyon, and you got to get this, and you do your Berliners. And then everybody else starts kind of following that. So, like, now I think we're getting to the point where the craft beer drinkers who got into IPAs 2 years ago, they're now starting to get into pastry stouts, and they're starting to see cereal beers, and, they're seeing the growth. And again, while the people who are the craft beer lovers who were into, like, sours and all that stuff from, 3 years ago, or now we're going back around going, I like to just drink a plain Jane straight out Pilsner. Now, as a brewer, a Pilsner is hard to make because you can't hide anything in it. That goes back to my original thing about the milkshake. You keep dumping ingredients or more stuff.
Ingredients.
You can mask if you're off. Again, it's like the thing with the guitar. A clean, non-distorted guitar, you can't make any mistakes as you'll hear them. With a Pilsner, if you make a mistake with a Pilsner, it's going to be right out there.
You'll hear it.
You'll definitely hear it. You'll taste it. You'll see it, and you'll see it. Like the first time we made our revival was like a year and a half ago, and it came out hazy. I go, hazy Pilsner,
the hazy
and then all of a sudden it cleared up for some reason. Like
you're like unhazy Pilsner,
unhazy Pilsner. So it's pretty much
scratch out the word hazy.
It's it's like that thing. I meant it to be that way, but yeah. So I mean, it's all cyclical. That where people come back around, I can see people sitting around going, I want to drink nothing but Pilsners. Or
so here's a question: you're talking about people have short attention spans. They want to try a bunch of different things. When are you going to do a thing where you get 4-ounce cans of everything that's on tap currently, and let people buy one pack?
Slow down. Let me write that down.
4-ounce cans, it's all like a giant snap pack that fits all of these 4-ounce cans, like 24 of them.
Going
all
back
in one
to cereals, remember how I used to buy those variety pack of cereals, and you'd eat every one except for the cornflakes.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd eat the Apple Jacks, the
sugar
blueberry
smacks,
yeah. But I mean, that's probably something to do with. That's kind of why we moved these cans from crowlers down to 12-ounce, because someone's not going to buy 32 ounces of General Jones's Wild Berry Imperial Seltzer.
I mean, Imperial Seltzer. I don't think I've ever had an Imperial Seltzer before.
A friend of mine, a good friend of mine at the brewery came. He goes, Scofflaw's got a 10% seltzer. When are you doing that? I'm like, I got to do that now? Okay.
Didn't Four Loko put out a seltzer that's like 13.9 or something?
Oh, well, I haven't had it, but probably.
I'm not giving anything away because I was talking, before I walked in here, my friend Kelly from Destin Brewing, I was on the phone with him because he needs to make seltzers for the beach. He was asking me this and this, and we basically make, 10 to 11%. And then we cut it down to 5. But if you didn't cut it, you've got
11%. Sure.
And I mean, okay.
That math checks out, Tim.
It does, yes.
And you were saying something about talking about seltzer. I think, listen, if there's $1 to be made, and it sounds strange, and I was talking about COVID, but now it's like, if I can sell a seltzer and bring in cash that helps me make the beer I want to make, you got to write that AM top 40 hit song so you can record your magna opus.
Do you feel dirty about it, though?
No. I might.
okay with
oh
it.
my God! Originally, I'd be like,
Years ago.
God, you can't do that. Now I'm like, whatever you want to do, man. It's something that's shown to me that like there's certain battles you got to fight. A seltzer, we make a seltzer. It's the Wizards of Fizz. It's kind of like an umbrella company or not company brand underneath the Burnt Hickory, where I can do whatever I want, like iced teas, hard iced teas, sodas, whatever. But I'm kind of experimenting with the flavors with the seltzer to see how, because it's kind of a challenge because, seltzer is pretty easy to make. And so my thing is, how can I have a craft seltzer? How can I take seltzer to the next level? So just like, let's say, if some of the big brands, which we won't say, but we know the big brand seltzers, are equivalent to the macro beers, where's the craft version of that? If you're going to take it, why not make it the best it can be?
Well, clearly you add lactose to it. I mean, that's really what we've
Milkshake
learned.
seltzers.
Yeah, milkshake seltzers.
Some glitter.
Some glitter. That's a good idea. Putting glitter in there.
Yeah, the glitter sparkle seltzer.
We do have a we do have a wedding cake beer that has the funfetti in it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Does it dissolve in the beer? Does
we
stay
sprinkle it on
funfetti?
top in the thing.
Okay.
I mean, you get people to
little
come.
whipped
There's one of
cream
those
on
things
there,
like
frosting.
we made a blue beer,
Randall
and I know you
it
like
through
laugh
frosting.
at it. And my joke is it's blue flavored.
You need a Schlager beer. You can have
Cans,
gold flakes
wow.
in it.
Goldschlager.
Yeah, like it's gold flakes in it. It's a Schlager seltzer.
Brian, if you had a brain, you might be dangerous.
He would be.
I'm messing with
He
you,
comes
of
up with
course.
these ideas all the time.
But-
what is
but-
Goldschlager? It's like a schnapps, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's a schnapps,
Cinnamon schnapps?
with actual gold flakes in it. Yes. Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
you need. You need a Schlager barrel.
Schlager barrel. Yeah.
Schlager, gold.
Just pull out some of your gold and flake it off. Do it like truffles. Just shave some of your
Hey,
gold
but
bars.
it's one of those things. How do you stand out? If there's 8,000 breweries, how do you
It's
make
tough,
something?
sure.
Gold
Our
leaf.
friends at Pontoon made the Skittles beer, and they got picked up by, and it was
Everybody.
Some people
Yes.
thought it was stupid. Some people thought it was genius, but it was
Everybody
It's
was
sold
talking
out.
about it. Though.
Everyone's
Yeah.
talking about it.
And
so
it's
you
sold
got to
out.
do, and maybe
we got a can of that in the fridge if you want to try.
I've had
if
it.
You
It's
haven't
good.
had it. Okay.
I just saw the Trix Rabbit outside. He's got a bat. He's kind of mad about being
He's
ripped
looking
off.
around. He's looking
Yeah,
around.
he's got the leprechaun.
We'll drive
Lucky
him.
Charms.
Look, if we can get the Trix Rabbit to tear into Sean over at Pontoon, we'll drive him
Hey,
over
listen,
there.
Captain Crunch isn't even the Navy. I found that out.
He's not.
He's
not.
not.
Even,
He's not
well,
even
that's like what. That's
Colonel
why
Sanders
it's
is not even a
CAP.
colonel.
What?
Yeah.
Now my childhood is ruined.
Yeah.
It's an honorary title. Yeah.
It
Terrible,
totally is.
isn't
It
it?
totally is. But again, back to the the trends. You gotta kind of make something to stand out. You have to trust that your local brewery is going to have people behind the scenes that are making it that are going to make good beer. You want experienced brewers to make these beers for you, or it becomes completely like craziness because if it, it's next thing you know, you're dumping anything into there and you're kind of like, oh, this is what I want it to be, which is not bad. That's kind of the root of where we saw like,
I have seen you. No, I got to call you out here.
yeah, maybe you probably should.
I
That
have
doesn't make
seen you
sense.
take a stout and put it in a blender with Butterfinger bars. I mean, I've literally seen that happen.
Yeah, I did do that. Actually, we've got a Fig Newton. I'm working on a Fig Newton stout right now. I went and bought a whole boxes of Fig Newtons and
Okay.
soaked them in.
That would have been good in a quad.
Yeah, I think so.
A
With the
figgy
fig
quad, yeah.
You got to think of what they taste like. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is in the end, who's going to ultimately decide what trends stay are the consumers. If there's no money to be made in milkshake IPAs, it will change. If nobody's buying a Skittles beer, then people will stop making those.
If they don't support it,
If
then
people
they'll
are
quit
people
making
are
them.
buying it, and that's one thing that I have learned is that for me to have my dream owning a brewery, there's certain concessions you have to make stuff that you may not be. It sounds bad to say this, but in reality, you can't pay the landlord in beer. You got to pay him in money.
Right.
So if you want to, you got to pick your battles.
Well, sometimes if your landlord's really cool, you can. But you know what I predict in the future? I think there will be a return of carrot cake doubles. I think that's
That's
The
true. People ask me
big
about
sporting
that.
carrot cake doubles. Guys,
That's
we're
right.
going to take another quick break. And then, Scott, I bet you got more to say, don't you? I bet we can talk more.
I mean, we can talk about my third grade trip to the zoo.
Okay, we can do that then. You're listening to Beer Guys Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk more with Scott Hedeen of Burnt Hickory Brewery. You know we love good beer, and Athletic Brewing makes non-alcoholic beer that stands shoulder to shoulder with their boozy brethren. With a fraction of the calories and certified organic, it's a great beer to enjoy anytime.
Athletic's got new brews like Cerveza Atletica just in time for summer. Check out the full selection at athleticbrewing.com. Use code BG25 for 25% off your first order, and U.S. customers get free nationwide shipping. Athletic Brewing, brew without compromise.
It's Brian and Tim, the beer guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Brian. They've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, that's where it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks, so you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth.
Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the beer guys sent you.
Are you really doing Facebook right? I'm Aaron Williams, and here's your Marketing Minute. Facebook is a fantastic place to communicate with your fans. I'm sure you're using it to let people know about your specials, new beers, events. In other words, you're talking at your audience. Instead, try talking with your audience. Start conversations, ask questions, and show your fans what's going on behind the scenes. You'll make more of them, I promise. For more marketing tips and tricks, head to crafted-consulting.com/radio.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guys swag and commercial-free episodes and stuff like this. You get this.
You do.
But anybody gets this.
And all of our podcast listeners are going to get this right here.
That's right.
They're going to get it all right.
But our Patreon
Yes.
supporters will get this, Brian, with no commercial interruption.
What? That's
Yes,
insane.
that's right.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess we should get back to talking to Scott.
Your video would play
He's-
after this
should.
ad.
He won't
That's
stop
right.
talking,
Yeah.
so we might as well talk
You
to
can
him.
skip
I
this
love how you
ad
guys
in
are making
5
fun of me like that,
seconds.
but whatever.
We've been doing that since.
Yeah, it's fine.
since
I own a,
you
I own
know,
a
just to
brewery.
tell a little bit about our history with Scott Hedeen. So we drank beer with you, and Scott, we actually knew you right as or just before we started homebrewing. We got to know you guys and really respected what you were doing. This is back when your best brewer ever was at the brewery, Will Avery. And we really enjoyed
In his mind, I
what he
love
was
Will.
doing. But
The hippie.
we were the type that if we were brewing something and we didn't know what to do or we had a question, we'd go to the people we respect, and I'd go bug your brewer. So, and I think at first with Will, I think I just annoyed him. I think it was just an annoyance.
I think he did that on purpose. I think he
And
really
then-
loved it.
Yeah, and then after a while, get to know. So you guys helped us a lot with
Well,
that, and then you actually invited us for a few of your anniversary parties. We did collaborations with you.
Yeah,
got
I
to
mean,
serve our
that's
home
why I think
brews
that's
there,
one of the reasons why I opened a brewery was to
Yeah.
meet people and meet people who liked beer like me. I didn't do it for the money.
That's a good thing, Scott.
It's really a good thing.
It's funny. The story I have is that I went to a bar. This is a bunch of years ago, and the bartender was from Hickory, and I started kind of secret shopping him. I go,
Okay.
well, what do you think about this? What do you think? What do you think about burnt hickory? He goes, oh man, they do whatever they want to do, man. And the owner, man, he's crazy. He does anything, man. He doesn't even care about money. And I was like, that guy sounds like a real jerk.
Yeah, he's dumb. He's
What a
super
dummy.
dumb.
He doesn't know how to run a business at
That's
all.
right.
Yeah, I mean, that was the wake-up call is, the whole idea that, you take your hobby and your passion and turn it into a business. I don't want to sound like a broken record because I do have passion for beer. I love beer. I love the whole brewing process. I love the marketing and all that. But, things are going to – we talk about the future of craft beer.
Sure. But you know what? The people who say it's not about the money are the ones that are making a boatload of money from it. They're like, well, I didn't start this for the money. John Smith has made $47 million this year with his brewery. Well, it's not about the money. It's about the passion. So,
yeah. First of all,
Scott Hedeen has made $4.27.
People say we spent
Also, not about the money.
we spent $150,000 on our tap room. I spent 150 cents.
That's it, man.
But
Do what you
but I
gotta
mean,
do.
And it shows. It really paid
DIY.
off.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Say about your
I
beer.
stumped him.
No.
That's not easy to do with Scott.
No,
That's
I
not
hit
easy
it.
to
That's
do.
a win for me.
I hit
I'm putting that in my
I
column.
hit a crossroads, and then I decided I decided to stay on the main
Just stay
road.
there. That's
Yeah.
good for you, man. Well, Scott, talking about to get us a little back on the train tracks here. We're goofing now, but we did talk during the break. We wanted to get your take on kind of the future of craft beer, man. Like, what is next? We've talked about kind of the history of what things have gone on. What do you think's next as far as the shape of the industry, or next as far as trends go?
The way the industry is going, I would think there's going to be a limit where there can only be so many breweries. and there's going to be oversaturation of it. It's not, craft beer is not as special as it was. Again, like 20 years ago, I made that comment about the breweries being 30 miles away or whatever. I think that breweries are going to become like restaurants. And, it's like, you go to a town, you go to this, it's not a franchise anymore, or it's a local based tap room with something, like you said, something to do, something going on, food, or some type of experience of actually going to the source. I mean, I would tour breweries, in the late 80s, early 90s, and they would literally be like Quonset huts, and you would look at the guy, putting the caps on the bottles, and then, you grab a low fill, you're excited, Now it's like, what have you got for me to entertain me and me to bring my family to? So I think that's a little, I mean, it's kind of where it's going to be. I think I think there's a bunch of people who got into the brew business thinking it's going to be fun, and they're going to realize that, okay, to maintain a certain level, you got to be able to deliver the goods. Like every can you make has got to be as good as the last can. And if you can't do that, you're not going to survive.
Sure.
Because once you get labeled, oh, that's bad beer, or
inconsistent,
beer, exactly, or something, you can't get that back. So, and even it used to be, well, I like that beer. They're locals. They're good. You just can't say that anymore.
Right.
I mean, it's, well, how good are you?
We've talked about, before we started the Beer Guys radio show, I moderate a forum, Reddit ATL Beer. And I've been
never heard of it.
You've been doing that 7 or 8 years. But I used to get a lot of grief because people said that I was just a local cheerleader. That not all local breweries are great. And you know what? I agree with that. I always have agreed with that. But I'm the type that I'm going to talk positively about the folks I do like, and I'll just shut my mouth about the ones I don't. I don't have to say anything negative.
Whether it's like a baseball player you like or don't like, or a certain band that you don't like or whatever, there's still going to be. I have a complete respect for anybody who decides they want to open a brewery, because I kind of understand what it actually takes to actually physically do that. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. And you kind of put yourself out there. This is my product I put out there, and I'm giving it to people. Like even now, you guys are opening my cans, going, "Gosh, I hope they like them." But
sure. And you've known us for years. And
I used
years
to be
and
like
years.
so sensitive about. Now I'm kind of like, I'm just glad that you're even.
I want to give you a 2-star rating on Untapped. So
that's great. At least I'm getting a review on Untapped.
There you
it's
go.
Like, hey, at least I'm on there. But I mean, the future. I don't know where it's going to go. Where I'd like to see it go is that we start to see, classic beers, and we're going to start to see a generation of people who look back and think, I used to drink Burnt Hickory because that was a beer I grew up with. Just like we would look back on a Rolling Rock or a Natty Boh or, a Rainier or whatever. I don't know if it's going to be like that.
Jenny Cream.
Yeah, some like the type of thing. I remember I used to drink this, whatever. Beer should be about people coming together and enjoying it and exchanging of ideas. And it brings people together, and it makes people form memories, and that type of thing. It's much more. I was having a discussion with somebody about selling this as a consumer package good. I like to say I don't sell a consumer package good, even though it is a consumer package good. I sell an experience with my beer, and that's where I'd like to see it stay and have a little bit away. And I think with the way local breweries and small batches, we're getting back to almost kind of like nano breweries again, putting out crazy beers, if that makes sense. I mean, I was kind of slamming that earlier, but my thing is, I was kind of slamming out saying that's kind of crazy. But I think that's actually, I really do. I think it's great. I think that people are taking chances, experiment, and the market will decide who succeeds and who doesn't.
There. Sure.
But we can't forget that it's a bond that holds us all together is the love of craft beer.
I saw a meme the other day talking about crazy beers, and it's like, it said 2015. Wow, these pumpkin beers are insane. I hope this goes away. 2020. ISO double barrel aged Cheetos onion funyun chocolate double dip beer.
No, I thought maybe you were going to say something, because I mean it's almost the point now. Normal, anything that's normal is now cool.
Pumpkin beer was nuts, but I mean 5 years ago, pumpkin beer was
seriously
crazy.
I
like pumpkin beers.
I personally bought into the hype for a year or so.
Hey, listen, I can honestly say I've never met a beer. I've never drank a beer I didn't like.
Okay.
I mean, I like beer.
Yeah.
I like beer.
I like beer too. I've had some really bad beer, Scott. So, but I didn't
well,
like
that's true.
them.
There are some bad beers, but if
I'm not mad at
you,
beer. I'm just disappointed.
If a brewer or a home brewer really put their soul into it, he or she did it and gave it to me, and it was bad, I would tell them, here's what I think's wrong with it, and that's how you could fix it.
Like,
you know what?
Your soul is terrible.
I will say,
I've sampled your
good for
soul.
you
Do not
making
care
beer.
for it.
I will say that, Scott, they make a joke about people homebrewing, and it's like if you're sharing your beer with people, you're always going to get positive feedback because you're giving them free beer.
Yeah.
You were never that kind to me, Scott. You would tell me,
Well,
you
I
would tell me, hey, man, this
True.
is. I remember sharing a beer with you one time, and you took a sip, and you just started shaking your head. You didn't say anything, and you're like, "This has got a lot of flaws." He's like, "Do you want to?" And you looked at me. You said, "Do you want to know?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely."
I mean, you could have told me to
So,
blow it out my or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to have people that I trust make beer. I would give it to them, and they'd say, "What kind of review do you want?" You may tell you, it's beer. Okay, it's fine. You want? Is it perfect? No. And here's what's wrong with it. And here's what you need to do. And that's it. If you really want to become a better home, if you just want to make beer to share with your friends,
Sure.
yeah, it's fine.
Right.
But if you say, "Hey, what's wrong with it?" I'm going to tell you, but I'm also going to give you my advice. Not saying that I'm like, stamp on it, good, bad. It's like it's
Right,
It's
right.
all people's palates are different. If you like it, you don't like it. But if I smell bubble gum, that's a good thing. If you wanted that, if I smell this, or if it tastes like Band-Aids, you did this or this. You got to go back and find out. But here's how you fix it. And I had people like, again, I started homebrewing in the early '90s.
1890s.
1890. That's my joke, right? And like I said, I was used to.
You
be
have died of dysentery.
That's right.
Yeah. I used to be into Mastodon back in the day, not the band, the animal.
The actual animal. Yeah.
They told me this is what's wrong with it, and that's the only reason I became better is by doing that. Same thing when I did television news. That people would show me their stories, or I'd show stories to people who produced stuff that I liked, and said, "What do you think?" And I want the honest opinion. I don't want like this sucks and throw it back at him. I would
Right.
be like,
Tell me
okay,
what's wrong and
this
how do I
sucks.
fix
This is
it.
what's wrong with it. Are you happy? First question I say, do you like it? If you like it, that's great. Do I like it? It's great that you made it. I don't like it. Here's why I don't like it. And here's what you can do.
Scott mentioned his TV news, so here's some fun Burnt Hickory trivia for those that didn't know that. Scott literally has a bin full of Emmys.
Yeah, I won Emmys.
He actually tied a stick to one of them and uses it to stir the mash.
Yeah,
occasionally.
it's
The
I've said
mash
all the
time
time.
with the Emmy.
I
You
got some crap about that because friends of mine who are still in the business, it's like, I've worked so many years to make an Emmy and you're making fun of it. I'm like, sorry.
I'm
that
sorry
was
you're
my
not-
previous
I'm sorry
life. I
you
made
weren't
This
it.
is what
as good
happens
as
when
I
you
am.
have
Well,
so many.
It's obsessive behavior.
You
that I
should make a
have.
necklace out of it like the Beastie Boys did with the Volkswagen
It's
symbol.
true. I've thought about that. We make
Yeah.
cap handles out of them.
Sure.
I mean, it's obsessive.
ornament.
It's my typical obsessive disorder where I got in so much into TV news that I couldn't be success unless I had 15 Emmys. And then
Yeah.
once I won 15 Emmys, I was now it's time to move on. I translated the beer, and I got so into it that I not only into home brewing that I had to open a brewery, and then I had to do this, and I had to do this, and all this. And years later, now I'm looking back, going, it could have been a little less tense back in the day, and things would have been a little bit better.
And folks may not know, but you actually filmed an award-winning documentary on MLK, didn't you?
Yes.
With I forget her name,
Brenda Wood.
Brenda Wood. So right here in Atlanta,
John
did
Lewis
a
just
big-
died. I mean, John was
Yeah.
one of the coolest dudes you could ever meet. I met
Right.
all these different people.
Yeah, that's I never
John
personally met
Rocker.
John
I got to hang out
Lewis.
with John Rocker. Aren't you excited?
John
Yeah.
Rocker. I
Yeah.
remember old John Rocker.
Yeah. Or Eric Robert Rudolph.
What? Oh, really?
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
What was your TV news career? Do you have one moment that was most memorable?
Gosh, I don't even.
Why are you chuckling at me, Scott?
No, because it's
Was
like you got to think about what's the best beer you ever drank.
Right. What's the best beer?
It depends.
Or just pick one that was memorable.
I did a story where the only thing that was in the story was a mugshot of a guy that the police were looking for had kidnapped a kid, and a person literally saw that story and saw the person and called the police and they got the kid.
That's big stuff.
That's
Yeah,
a win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like hurricanes I covered or natural disasters or crazy stuff that happened.
Why'd you leave TV news?
I did it for like 20 years.
So it's like, let's on to the next thing. Let's do a brewery,
and I don't
right?
want to see how I'm trending now because TV news changed. It wasn't the same way. I was doing long form stuff. Now craft beer has started going like, oh, please don't start getting like TV news guys.
Like, what am I going to do next, man?
I mean, if you look at TV news, the difference what it is now and what it was then, I'm not going to make jokes about fake news, but this type of thing where news
Sure,
is
I
now,
get you.
it's different. When I was a photojournalist, and I shot stories that were like long form or whatever was going on. And then I was able to take some of that creativity that I had and put it into my beer because it would be the same kind of workflow, process flow. And then you would be, you would create something from, you get the material together, create it, produce it, and put it out into the world like TV news. I would go shoot a story, produce it, edit it, and then broadcast it out to people. The same thing with you brewing beer. You make it, you ferment it, you package it, you send it out. So that was my first career. Then brewing's my second career. My third career, I'm thinking about golf pro.
Golf pro? Okay. Walmart door greeter.
I was thinking either that or yoga instructor.
Oh my God, being a Walmart door greeter would be so cool.
Walmart door greeter, yeah.
What would you have to worry about? Oh my God, I didn't say hi to that person. What's going to happen?
Well, that's it, man. You go in, it's the old person there. They're just like, welcome to Walmart. They put if you're bringing something back, they put the smiley face sticker.
Yeah, that'd be good.
People walking by. That guy used to brew at Burnt Hickory.
Yeah. It's like that guy went crazy brewing it. He's sniffing the caustic soda.
Yeah. The great thing about the door greeter is you can tell that they literally do not care at all about anything.
And they go home
Not
at
a
night.
care in the world.
They go home at night and drink a craft beer and watch The Flash.
And that's it.
On Netflix.
And then go to bed.
And they're not angsty about it. They don't care. They just don't care.
They're not.
It just doesn't matter.
They're not worried about the excise tax or whether their labels are going to show up or why did your seltzer not hit the certain gravity in 2 days and
don't care.
Okay? Go ahead.
They don't care. So Scott, what's coming up for Burnt Hickory?
Hopefully, a lot of success.
Okay.
Do it.
After that,
yes.
or
it's
before that,
we same things. Like we didn't have our 8th anniversary party, which is always something because of obviously what happened. So we're going to have that probably in the fall, but then things keep changing. So it's kind of like the imaginary anniversary. Yeah. We're getting ready to put our white flag out, which is usually August. It's our apricot saison. Named after my friend Pat's band, White Flag. And we've got our Mud Honey coming back as an Oktoberfest. We're going to try to release that in September when it's maybe only in the 80s.
Right.
Maybe. I mean, it is what it is. And then, we've got Killdozer coming. We've got, everything's normal for us. It's kind of scary. I keep looking around going, should I be worried? But I am worried, but I'm always worried.
Business as
usual.
It's
business as usual. We got bottle releases. Again, we're doing more of these variants. Again, we went to this variant thing and with the curbside to go because people were saying, well, okay, I like digits and I like driving and crying the beers, but we really want to get some of your like Almond's Joy or your ice cream social distancing or My Brother the Cow or the different ones you can only get on draft. So we started doing this variant series, a mix pack. You come by and get those because again, you have to be able to adapt to the, and that's what's going to be the future of craft beer or any business moving ahead from this time. Now you have to adapt and be able to take what you do naturally and what you do, but make it work within the new parameters that have now been set up. I think, this is, watershed moment in American culture is this pandemic. But yes, what's coming up? You're like,
it's
what?
Something.
And then we're going to have a food truck. But yes,
food truck. What kind of food truck?
And trivia.
And trivia.
Yes.
We've got industry night. Again, trying to make the beer. I've got a great brewer right now, a guy named Trapper. He came to me. He's actually worked at Southern Sky.
Okay.
All right. But he's a big mead drinker. So he's totally into that. He looks like Aquaman. So, I make the joke that...
we share space with a meadery here.
I know Robin and Eric. And then Tamara.
Viking Alchemist.
Yeah,
Tamara.
that's right.
Yeah.
So I know those guys, but Trapper's coming along real well. I get a little bit more. I can back off a little bit more. I'm trying to get more into more of the kind of coming up with ideas. We're trying to do some more stuff with the band Driving and Crying, which is our kind of our house band of sort that we make a beer for. They basically... COVID hit them in the sacks where they can't go out and tour. So we're trying to promote a beer for a band that can't play anywhere.
Now, Scott, we've talked about the many faces of Scott Hedeen. Again, outside of TV news and a brewery owner and just being dead sexy, you're a punk rocker.
Well, I would like to think that.
You were in the Chiefs.
I was in a band called the Chiefs.
The Chiefs.
Spelled wrong.
Right, right. And that's unfortunately one of the band's founders got
Bob
ill and passed away.
Yeah, he passed away. So, but
you've got you played, I believe, with Descendants, right?
We played with the Descendants. Bill, the drummer, he mixed our new single that's out.
Yeah.
The Chiefs were a very it's kind of like a rock and roll fantasy camp for me and my friend Brad and James. We were able to join. Bob was in the band The Chiefs in 1980 in L.A., and they played with the Black Flag, Social Distortion, Bad Religion, the Descendants. And Bob moved here, and I ran into him just because I sold his single that I had of the Chiefs,
Okay, right.
and made money to help fund the startup of Bardic Brewery. And I was like, I met him and started talking to him about his band. I go, well, you were partly a investor in my brewery because your single that you put out in 1980, I sold for $300 and put it toward him. So he became friends, and I was like, dude, I know all your songs. Can we play? So I actually joined the Chiefs, which is kind of like the joke that, like, if you look on the Wikipedia, the little asterisk, like
little star.
But anyway, we were the band.
The little timeline of when they were in the band.
And we went.
Scott Hedeen joined.
Scott Hedeen.
Asterisk, not really.
Yeah, I was officially. Bob did said I was officially Chiefs member, but it's the thing about it was but it's music has been a passion of mine, and again, I try to move everything I try to do. Like with my TV news when I did that, or my beer or my music, I try to be creative, and you got to have a creative outlet.
Sure.
And music was for years. It was just a thing that I was into. So I was able to actually kind of have a rock and roll fantasy camp where I was actually in the band The Chiefs. So, and we do have a new single out. So you can go on Bandcamp, The Chiefs, spelled wrong. Because Bob,
it's on Spotify as well,
right?
right?
Yeah, we're on Spotify.
Spelled wrong is CHEIF.
It's like the way Keith is spelled.
Oh, okay. All right.
Bob,
Keith Chiefs.
In 1980,
right.
Bob got a bunch of dumpster dived and got a bunch of shirts, and he spray painted the name of the band on the shirts, and he spelled all of them wrong. So instead of changing, this is totally craft beer.
See?
Instead of changing the shirts, they changed the name of the band.
There you go.
Well, there you go.
Good stuff.
But so anyway, they're famous. Literally, imagine it's like if you were a brewer being hired to brew with Pierre Celis, or hang out with Burt Grant, or Fritz Maytag or something. That's kind of what the Chiefs
Pretty cool
were to me.
stuff.
Yeah, it's cool.
Man. You've had an interesting life, Scott. Yeah, sure enough, man.
So if people want to keep up with what else is going on with Burnt Hickory, where should they go? What should they do?
The social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, our website. Just email us. I'm Scott at burnthickorybrewery.com, or
there you go.
Just
you can
whatever.
find out.
Email him directly for anything you want to know.
It's funny. People all the time, they come into the brewery and they're like, hey, Scott's here. I'm there all the time. It's,
Go by and visit him, Kennesaw, Georgia, if you're in the area. Keep an eye out for the beer. Where is your beer distributed right now, Scott?
We're in the whole, we have beer in the Panhandle of Florida, a couple places down there, which we actually saw a bunch down there.
Chattanooga, you're up in Tennessee, right?
We were.
Okay.
And then we're in Alabama a little bit, but we kind of curved back because we were finding that the beer, we were sending it to other places, and we're kind of like, it goes back to that local thing.
Sure.
We were we're going into Chattanooga, where we were paying out-of-state taxes on it, so our beer was like $1 or maybe $2 more versus local breweries, which make great beer, like
and
Hutton
that they
Smith
know right there in the neighborhood.
Side,
sure,
and they can hand deliver it in the whatever the county is there, and where Chattanooga is, you can deliver within that county.
Self-distribution.
Yep, so all of a sudden, why get a pint of Burnt Hickory Zeke for $7 a pint when you get a Hutton and Smith for $5, and it's made right down the street? So, again, it's the local thing.
Drink local, man.
Drink local.
Scott, thank you so much for joining us, man. We appreciate you being available on short notice and coming and hanging with us.
I can come back next week if you want me to.
No, we're done with
we
you,
hope
man.
not. Okay. We really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Join us next week as we talk with Chicago's Pipeworks Brewing. For more craft beer info, follow us online. We are Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.